Hey, everybody, I want to get into day 2. Wendi Adelson took the stand, you guys. The victim's wife, ex-wife at the time of the murder, and this is her mom on trial. She took the stand. Her brother took the stand, not the one that's in prison for this same murder. Her older brother, older than, Charlie's older than that. Rob, he took the stand. What did they have to say? I'm going to tell you all about it after you listen to this intro. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Yes, we are still talking about the Dan Markel murder that happened back in July of 2014. It has been 11 years, you guys. 11 years. 4 trials. Yeah. So if you don't, I don't know where you've been, but if you're new here, welcome. Please give this video a thumbs up if you wouldn't mind. I would really love that. And subscribe. It's free. I don't charge you a thing. And I'd love to hear your comments. So, yeah, this is the 4th trial. So day 2 of testimony against Donna Adelson. Grandma Adelson, she's on trial for the murder of Dan Markel, for conspiracy to commit the murder of Dan Markel, and solicitation to conspire to commit the murder of Dan Markel. Dan Markel was an FSU law professor, pretty prominent. He was working his way up amongst the elite of law professors. Like, he would travel around the country giving these speeches. He spoke a lot on criminal law. He was a criminal law professor, and he did a lot of work on like the penal system. Like, he had a lot of opinions on punishment and how that should look. In any case, poor guy. He pulls into his driveway on the morning of July of 2024. He has dropped his children off at the daycare. This is a Friday morning, around, early morning. He gets up, feeds them breakfast. Their mom's going to pick him up later because he's going out of town the next day. So anyway, they're divorced. He and Wendi are divorced. He's got his 2 little boys, 2, 3 years old, drops them off at daycare, calls Wendi, because Wendi took the stand, and she says, I spoke to him this morning. He called me, said he was headed to the gym. He dropped the boys off, and then he was headed to the gym. That was about 9:30. About 10:30, he's done with the gym, pulls into his driveway, followed by another vehicle, a Toyota Prius, light colored. The one man gets out of the vehicle, shoots Dan Markel in the head and the face, and kills him. He dies the next day in the hospital. So we have sat through, this is now the 4th trial. We sat through the trial where the hitman, it's the 2 men that were in that vehicle behind him in the driveway that day, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, they're serving time for the death of Dan Markel. Then we sat through the trial of Catherine Magbanua, because in the first trial with the hitman, she got a hung jury. So we had to sit through a second trial just for her. And she was convicted during the second trial of hiring Sigfredo Garcia, who was the father of her children, but she was at the time dating Charlie Adelson, who is Wendi Adelson's brother. I know, follow the bouncing ball, people. It's crazy. So she's convicted. Trial number 3, they try Charlie Adelson, who was dating Catherine Magbanua. He's the brother of Wendi, and Charlie gets convicted because he paid Catherine Magbanua cash after the murder, in addition to some other perks, like breast augmentation and motorcycles and things are happening. Charles gets convicted, and now we're sitting through the trial of Charles and Wendy's mom, the mastermind of the entire thing. So, yes. So Wendy took the stand, but before she could take the stand, now I don't think this is the way the prosecution wanted this to come in before the jury, but this is the way we heard it. She finally brought in, I talked to you about the notebooks. She brought in the notebooks, but she brought in the guy in her office, the investigator that's in her office that put this notebook together. And he used to be a detective or whatever, but now he works at the state attorney's office as an investigator. He put together every bit of divorce proceeding that Donna Adelson would have been aware of, and how she would have been aware of it. He attached it to an email or a letter or a pleading or whatever. And the prosecution meticulously, first they went through it without the jury present, because what the defense has said is that these documents in the divorce file are not relevant, and you have to, if you want them to come into this trial as being relevant, you have to show that my client was even aware of those documents. So this is how they were doing this morning. They put this investigator on. He did a PowerPoint about each document, and they did that before, and then they brought the jury in, and they did it in front of the jury. So they both go through this divorce file. Just the parts that pertain to Donna Adelson. There was a lot of emails, and he said whenever Wendy would send pleadings over to Dan Markel, she'd get her mom to look at them first. Mom could make changes. What her mom would do was suggest changes, and then Wendy would make them look like they were her suggestions, and she would go to her lawyer and say, "Oh, here, I have some suggestions." Yeah. So Donna made numerous edits to the pleadings before they would go out. Some of them were forwarded by the attorney to her. Some of them were forwarded by Wendy to her. But all of the stuff that she would have been aware of is now in evidence. And it came in through this investigator. So then we get Wendy on the stand. So Wendi Adelson talks about she met Dan Markel in 2003 on an online Jewish dating site, J-Date, you know how that goes. She'd been an attorney since 2006. So she was in law school when she met. Her first year of law school, she meets Dan Markel. She's told the jury that she's been an attorney since 2006. So that's when she passed the bar. She specializes in immigration, and she is testifying under immunity, derivative immunity. So what that means is, and actually even before she takes the stand, her attorney, he addresses the court to say she's testifying here because she's been granted immunity. So nothing, she knows she can be prosecuted. She can still be prosecuted, but nothing she says on the stand can be used against her in a case brought by the prosecutors against her. And that still may happen. Everybody wants it to happen. So I told people that were watching, I'm like, watch her body language, because when in Charlie's trial, she got really upset with the prosecutor, because the prosecutor was really digging hard at her, going hard at her. Well, and you could see she was fuming, and she would try to do these breathing techniques to calm herself down. This didn't happen yesterday, though. She was in total control of her testimony. Although I don't think the prosecutor was going at her quite as hard as she did in the prior trial. Same prosecutor, George Kaufman. So they were married in the summer of 2005 they're married in 2006. I'm sorry. It was the summer of 2005 that they moved to Tallahassee. They get married in 2006. After they get married, they both go back. They both go to Miami, and he practices at the University of Miami for a year. Doesn't like it, and he wants to go to Tallahassee, and he gets tenured at Tallahassee, and so they end up in Tallahassee. So that was they were at the University of Miami for 2006 to 2007. Then from 2007 to 2014, they were at FSU in Tallahassee, Florida State University. She was there as like a visiting professor. She didn't have tenure. Basically, here's a job because we want to hire your husband. Is basically, and she said they were not getting along because they didn't agree on the degree of how they wanted to raise their boys in the Jewish faith. He wanted to, like, strictly kosher, the potatoes go here, the meat goes here, the meat has to be processed this way. It's very strict rules, very strict rules. She goes, I'm Jewish. Yes, I was raised as Jewish, but I wanted to eat bacon. She says, when I first met him, he ate bacon. Now he don't want no bacon. He didn't want our boys to have bacon. So this was a very big point of contention between these two. How were they going to raise these boys in this Jewish faith? So she goes crying to her mama, and her mom, this is what comes out during the testimony. Her mom comes up to Tallahassee, starts helping her plan her escape, planning her daughter leaving Dan Markel. Helps her get a place to live in a different name, not her own, not an Adelson name, because, we don't want anybody to be able to trace this place to you. She's calling financial institutions. She's getting everything set up so her daughter can leave Dan Markel. Then Dan Markel leaves town to go to a speaking engagement, and the movers are in the driveway. All the stuff's in the back of the truck, and then they time their phone call to Dan Markel to make sure that he gets it right before he goes on to give this speech that he was supposed to give. Hey, I'm leaving you. By the way, I want a divorce. I'm leaving you. And that's when he gets the news. He's about to go on and do a speaking engagement, and he just gets this like total shocked, surprised. Comes home from his speaking engagement. His house is cleaned out. She took everything, absolutely everything, but a few things. Like I think she left the bedroom, a piece of bedroom, a bed or something in the bedroom with the divorce papers on the bed. Everything else, the children, the furniture, everything gone. Gone. This is how he learned that she wants a divorce. And mom helped put all this together. So when he said mom is the dominant force in their household, and her mom even went so far as when I think she said she was there was a period of time where she was in Washington. Anyways, when her mom set up a dating profile for her. And keeps sending, she says, which I never used, by the way. Didn't use mom's dating profile that she set up. But her mom would send her daughter these suggestions. Here, I got somebody for you. Here, I got somebody for you. This is how controlling this woman was. Yes. So the prosecutor kept asking Wendi, didn't you say this? And she'd say, oh, no, I don't remember saying that. Well, it's been 11 years. You probably don't remember saying it. Well, let me refresh your recollection. Go to tab 1. And then she had a bunch of tabs there where she had said, mom's walking all over me, where her mother called Dan an STD. She called her mother an emotional terrorist. She said she would not have left Dan Markel absent the suggestion of her parents and Charlie. She would have never left him if her parents and Charlie hadn't suggested that she leave this man. Her mom would refer to Dan as a bully, a narcissist, a bastard, STD. Yeah. So some of the things that came out through this testimony were very interesting, that I had not really understood the depth of what was going on here. She had, and these are just the weeks prior to the murder, she's dating this guy named Jeffrey Lacasse. And this will come in later, because keep in mind, when you hear, if you're watching the trial and you hear this name, Jeff Lacasse, that's the guy that Wendi was dating. And I think is the person that Donna and Charlie were setting up to take the fall for this murder. But it didn't happen, because this guy got wise to it. Anyway, he knew something was up. Wait till he takes a stand. But anyway, so these are things going on right before the murder. Now, also right before the murder, Wendi buys a house. She's put a contract down on a house, but she cancels it. Now, she says the reason she canceled the sale of the house is because Dan didn't give her all the money he was supposed to give her from the sale of their first house. So she didn't have money to buy the house, so she canceled the sale of the house. Okay. She had a job offer. It fell through, but she had a job offer in South Florida. And in March, keep in mind now, he's killed in July. A month later, in March, she becomes a resident of this bougie condo on South Beach in Miami that her parents bought. Now, her parents weren't living there full time. Their parents lived in Coral Springs, which is north. It's in Broward County. It's just north of Miami. But they would spend their weekends down at this place. It was called, let me tell you what the name of this place was called. The Continuum on South Beach. And the brother mentions later on that this place is heavily secure and only allows residents in. So you would have to be quick to get yourself made a resident so you have access to this place. That's how Wendi blew it off and explained. That's why I became a resident so quickly, because of the security. But they have a lot of famous people living there. And prosecutors like, oh, like who? A-Rod. Alex Rodriguez lives in the Continuum in South Beach. That's pretty high profile there. Okay. So all those things these things are like starting to add up here. Anyway, she joked about the TV thing. She said I told several people that her brother had made this joke. It was in very poor taste, but that he had bought her a TV instead of hiring a hitman because it was cheaper. So the morning of the murder, and she denied. They said, isn't TV what you guys used to call the murder? And she's like, no. The morning of the murder, she was at her house because Grandma called. Donna called, said, hey, I'm sending a TV repairman over for you. They'll be there between 8 and 12. Now, why is Donna Adelson having someone come over and fix her daughter's TV? Oh, because I didn't buy the TV. My brother Charlie bought it for us, so we didn't have all the information for it. So, and mom did, so maybe it was under warranty. So she called in and got the appointment. Okay. So then the repairman gets there and spends quite a bit of time there on a TV that can't be fixed. And she actually, while the repair person's there, she is calling Charlie, let him know the repair person's there. And they're like, so why did you call Charlie? What? Why? Because I wanted to find out what he paid for the TV in case, the guy was able to fix it. And I want to make sure that, I shouldn't just go right out and buy another TV. Of course you should just go out and buy another TV. Honey, do you live under a rock? These TVs don't last. You don't get them repaired, especially when you got 2 and 3-year-olds sticking stuff in there. I'm thinking about the TVs that we had back in 2014. Okay, anyway, didn't work, didn't get it fixed. So then she leaves her place and starts driving. And as she's driving out of the neighborhood or around this other neighborhood, the Trescott Lane place where Dan Markel has just been murdered, she sees some police tape. And when she sees that on Trescott Drive, it's not even entering her mind that, that could be her husband and her kids. No. So she just backs away and goes a different direction. Goes to the liquor store because she was invited to a party. It was a Stock the Bar party, and she ended up buying Bullet liquor, something with a name Bullet in it. All this is just really, really weird. So she indicated that she had met Catherine McManaman on 2 occasions. One time when they met for dinner at the Yardbirds, she was there with her boyfriend, Jeff, and Charles was there with Catherine McManaman. And she has a picture, the prosecution has a picture of her at the beach with Catherine McManaman. And they're like posing in their bikinis. Like, I'm sorry, you only met her once and you guys went to the beach and posed in your bikinis? Okay. So then we know from the last trial, when Jeff Lacoste testified, that he testified that there was a point in time when she said to him, listen, I'm going to tell you something, and it's got to stay between us. That my brother really did hire hitmen, because it was as a divorce present, because it was cheaper than the TV. He really did hire these hitmen. And this was something that she said to him in confidence a week before the murder. She's like, that never happened. Nope, never happened. He didn't. I never said him. I never told him that. Nope. Okay. So she was asked, did you know he was going to be out of town? He was supposed to be out of town the next day? Yeah, I knew that. Did you tell your mom that? I don't recall. But she said it's something her mom probably would have known because her mom knows her schedule and their schedule to find out what the boys are doing, I guess. I don't know. Your mom doesn't even live in Tallahassee. Why does she know Dan's schedule? You're divorced. I don't know. Then she had, I told you about, she called her brother. That call was 18 minutes long. The call to the brother to find out how much the TV was, 18-minute phone call to Charles. Yeah. She said she was scared after the murder. She was scared to live in Tallahassee. I don't want to live in Tallahassee. I was scared. And I was trying to make a new life for myself. First of all, she didn't go to the funeral. They didn't have the funeral here. They had the funeral. I told you, he's from Toronto. He's from Canada. They took his body to Canada. They had the funeral up there. She didn't go. Now, I get it. The boys are young. I get that. She didn't go. It's your ex-husband. It's the father of your children. You don't go to the funeral? What? She didn't go. She left 2 days after the murder. 2 days. Now, she decided to make it sound like she didn't leave with the intention of moving permanently down to Miami, but let me tell you something. She never came back. And after she was already driving towards Miami for the first 4 hours of the trip, 4 hours have passed, she gets a call from one of the investigators who wants her to come in and give DNA. And they want to get DNA from her boys. And she's like, call my lawyer. Click. Kept on driving to Miami. Never came back to Tallahassee unless it was to testify at one of these trials. Never moved back to Tallahassee. Okay. Then, when did you change the boys' names? You changed the boys' names. Yeah, I changed the boys' names. One of them, she changed the middle name and the last name from Markel to Adelson. Both of those boys are known as Adelsons now. And I'm wondering, I'm assuming they are living in Colorado with her. So, boys, if you're listening, I feel sorry for you. I really do. Your family, it's just not good. It's not good. I'm sorry. So sorry for those boys. Anyway, so she didn't change their names until she had to register for them for school. So she's left Tallahassee in July. The kids got to go to school in August. So it's just a few weeks. She's changed it. They're gone. They're not in Tallahassee anymore. She changes their names within weeks of her husband's passing away. So then she was asked, so was it part of the whole plot for you to just have plausible deniability? She's like, there was no plot. Are you hearing me? There was no plot. I thought, oh, that's a good one. That was a good one. Her life fell apart. She said she was on the FSU payroll until December. I don't know why. She wasn't up here. She said she still had her computer and she could work from wherever she was. She did admit that she told the cops that her parents were angry enough to kill Dan Markel. But she didn't think that they were capable of it. And she said, I don't remember saying that. Oh, okay, you're going to show me where I said it. Yeah, I said it. Okay. And then she actually suggested maybe Charlie. Maybe you should look at Charlie. So she actually, during that first interview, when they pull her out of the restaurant and they take her down to get interviewed, because after she left the liquor store, she went to the restaurant to have lunch with her friends, and then she gets pulled out to be informed that her husband's been shot. During that interview, she calls her mom. She says, I better call my parents. I better call them. Hey, Mom, are you sitting down? I got to tell you something. Then she gets off the phone. She's like, well, she took that pretty well. I'm surprised. She took that pretty well. She says, my parents didn't sound surprised. So that's a relief. Or they sounded surprised. That's a relief. Yeah. Can you imagine? She thought her parents did this. Yeah. Anyway, on cross-examination, she was asked to, your mom's kind, caring. She radiates positivity. Yes. She raised all three of you. You were the youngest. She had 2 older brothers. Everyone, you're a lawyer. Your brother was a periodontist. Your other brother's a doctor. Everybody got through graduate school. Mom helped you all along the way, didn't she? Yes, she did. She was a really good mother, a really good grandmother. Yes, yes, yes. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so they didn't really, like lit into Wendi, but we certainly got the flavor of what was going on with Donna from Wendi. We certainly did. Then we get Rob on the stand. He is Rob Adelson, the oldest of the Adelson boys. There's three kids. Rob's the oldest, then Charlie, then Wendi. He said mom was very controlling and very assertive. She likes to insert herself everywhere. Versus dad, who's just kind of passive. He just kind of goes with the flow. He said mom has these very rigid, fixed ideas about who they should marry, what their career should be. Mom just rigid, fixed ideas she had. She'd get over involved. She'd be controlling. And he really thought she was worse with Wendi than she goes, not so bad with him. Got a little bit bad with Charlie's, but really bad with Wendi, apparently. And what I noticed, because there was a lot of sidebars during this guy's testimony, what I noticed a lot was that he would not look at his mother. Very tall guy. Not as good looking as Charlie. Charlie way better looking. He would look down, and the only thing in front of him is like this sign that talks about, speaking into the microphone or something. It's just a little sign there, and then there's a box of tissues. So he was literally looking down at a box of tissues and a sign versus looking up at his mother, who would have been like here. Because if he looked straight, and he did a couple of times, that was his dad. So dad was there, mom was there. So he'd be like, he didn't know where to look. You could see he did not want to look at his mother or his father. I don't think he wanted to look at either one of them. Anyway, so he was asked about this practice, this dental practice. And he said, well, in 2012, the dental practice was owned and sold by Harvey, his father, to Charlie in 2012. But then in 2015, after the murder, it went from Charlie back to Harvey Adelson. So Charlie no longer owns any of that. But during this whole murder thing, when Catherine McMadam was working at the dental practice, Charlie is the owner. So just in case that comes up again, he straightened that out. He said in 2014, Donna Adelson hated Dan Markel. Hated him. And he did describe that Wendi was holding herself out like a damsel in distress. I gotta get out of Tallahassee. That's how he referred to his sister, a damsel in distress. And he said the only thing he could recall his mom kept saying over and over is they were depoting Wendi to death. What that means is they kept asking to take the deposition of Wendi Adelson. And they probably deposed her many, many times. It's the way a civil lawyer can just harass the crap out of a party. It's just to want to depose them over and over and over again, and for hours and hours, and just ask them ridiculous questions. And apparently that's what this divorce lawyer of Dan Markel was doing to Wendi Adelson. Allegedly. So, and anyway, he talked about having this conversation with Donna, where she told him where she came to Tallahassee and she had rented a place for Wendi. She hired the movers, and then he talks about how they then called Dan prior to going on for the speech to inform him about Wendi leaving him. But then when she was retelling this to her oldest son, he said she sounded very gleeful about this, like very pleased with herself that she had helped Wendi leave her husband. Okay. He knew that his mom wanted Wendi in South Florida. He knew that. And he knew about the bribe. He knew that she was going to try to bribe him. And he thought, in terms of the divorce, that Donna cared more about it than Charlie did. Charlie was just helping his mom out. Charlie would have rather have been out on his jet ski, according to his brother. He didn't, that was the difference between Charlie and Donna. Donna cared about what was going on with Wendi. Charlie, not so much. But Donna would call Charlie. Charlie and Donna were very, very close. And she had his ear. And if she needed help with something, Charlie would help her. No. Then he said this oddest thing just a few weeks before the murder, Wendi tells her older brother, I got a boyfriend, Jeff. They're trying to set it up. See? And he thought this is really unusual. She would never tell me about any of her boyfriends. Like she'd never mentioned that she was dating, but this was like the one time she mentions, oh, I've got this boyfriend, Jeff. Don't tell our parents. Don't tell our parents. I got this boyfriend, Jeff. Don't tell our parents. And that was the end of June when she told her brother that in a text message. So he's probably gone back and read it to refresh his recollection. Anyway, so I'm trying to see what else here. Oh, how did he learn about the shooting of Dan Markel? He got a phone call from Donna. Donna told him. And he said, she sounded very matter of fact about it. Oh, by the way, there was a shooting and he didn't make it. Very matter of fact. That's how he described it. And then he said that it was very strange. Nobody seemed concerned at all about who shot him. He said there was another time where he was on the phone with his mother and he had heard that there had been an arrest of these two men for the killing of Dan Markel. And so he asked his mom about it. Hey, Mom, I heard they arrested some people. She wouldn't talk about it. He said, I mentioned it at least 3 times during this conversation. And each time she would redirect him in another direction. She just was not going to talk about these two men being apprehended for killing Dan Markel. In fact, the 3rd time she said she just wasn't going to discuss it. And she hung up on she ended the phone call. She said, I gotta go. Gotta go. One of the Irish goodbyes. Gotta go. And that was the last time I spoke to her. Also, Wendi, last time she spoke to her mom, November of 23, almost 2 years ago, right after she was arrested. Last time she spoke to her mom. And I suspect mainly because all your jailhouse phone calls are monitored. And, Wendi's lawyered out the yin yang. They said when Wendi walks by, you think you were watching, the entourage for Taylor Swift, that she's got so many people, lawyers, bodyguards, whatever. So that's the episode for today. When you're done watching this, if you want to go watch what's going on live, I have got that going all day today, and I will recap it for you in tomorrow's show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. If you have a comment or question, leave that down there. And if I don't know the answer, I will find an answer and I'll get it to you. Have a wonderful